Hey, this is Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night, September 27th, 2017. We're glad you're here. Some of you may not be here because you are with the Lord. You do know that the rapture was yesterday, right? We'll talk about that. We've got a lot of things to talk about this tonight. We're going to talk about the hermit kingdom, about Jerusalem of the East. We're also going to talk about some of the global catastrophes and some of the issues surrounding the return of the Lord Jesus Christ. We're going to look at when a nation commits suicide. What happens? Then we're going to switch over to a counseling thing a little bit here. You know, the DSM-5 is coming out. That's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. American Psychiatric Association puts that out every once in a while. They're up to number 5. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to look at the hostility to the religion that exists in our country. And then we're going to get down to some Bible doctrine and look at the 5 solas of Scripture and what that's all about. But what's pushing at us right now in the news and on our hearts is all of this disaster, the hurricanes, especially the ones in Puerto Rico that has left more than 3 million people without electricity and in many cases without homes. Estimates are that it will take at least 3 months to get the electrical grid back up again. And that doesn't account for getting it to the various places where it needs to be. And now we've got another one that's percolating out in the Atlantic. So we're watching all of these hurricanes. They said it was going to be a bad year, and apparently it has proven to be. Food, shelter, medical supplies, clothing, not to mention more sophisticated help that some of the folks need there. In addition to all of that was the 2 Mexican earthquakes, 2 of them in about a month's time, said to have killed hundreds of people in the capital city and across 5 Mexican states. Officials say the toll is likely to rise. Over 800 people were injured just in Mexico City alone. Signs of the quake were all over the city on Wednesday. Broken glass under a business awning, swept up piles of brick, concrete and steel rebar, caution tape everywhere, blocking structurally unsound doorways and the like. Schools clearly canceled, businesses closed, trying to cut down on the traffic. Hordes of people gathered at the sites of dozens of collapsed buildings. People who came from all walks of life bringing water and food and safety supplies. There were so many of them that sometimes these folks had to be turned away. It was just too many people in a small area. Are we watching the beginning of the end, eschatologically speaking? I mean, we're looking at the worst earthquake in Mexico in 100 years, an 8.1 on the Richter scale earthquake. Earlier this month, there was another in Chiapas, Mexico. A few days after that came Hurricane Maria, slamming Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Then came another earthquake, 7.1, in Mexico City, almost as bad as the first one. Then there was an earthquake in Chiapas, Mexico, on that same day. The next day there was an earthquake off the coast of Australia, the islands near New Caledonia. On that same day, the 21st of September, there was a 6.1 earthquake off the coast of Japan. Lots of things going on. What does it all mean? Well, it probably means nothing, eschatologically speaking. It probably just means the earth is moving. what do you call it? Those things underneath, like, oh, we're not brain dead here. They move, they push against each other, and then they jerk a little bit, and it erupts everywhere. In Puerto Rico, they tell us there's no trees, none at all, no palm trees. Most of the buildings don't have doors or windows. The wooden homes are just simply gone. Many believe that it will take weeks, months to get all this back together. More than 12,000 people in shelters as of last Wednesday, and that number is expected to grow. FEMA's on the way. They've got a bunch of people on the island, more than 400 rescue teams from different federal agencies. But it rained for several days after that storm passed through. Is there something going on there? God ramping up to destroy North and South America, sending us some kind of a message? Just natural developments. There's a book out called Unearthing the Lost World of the Cloud Eaters. This book offers an intriguing suggestion about all of these events and how all this is working. And it goes back in time to before humans as we know them were here, according to the book, and talks about portals to other worlds and dimensions and all that. Is that your take on all of this, or is it just pretty much everyday normal 100-year flood, 800-year earthquake? Who knows? If you're listening to this broadcast tonight live, I want you to know that you have missed the rapture. The rapture was yesterday, September 23rd. I know, I missed it too. This is not a recording. The problem here is we've got a man by the name of David Meade. He calls himself a Christian researcher, and he has done what so many do. He has taken some facts from the Bible. He has taken some events from history and from current events. He has put it all together. He has then interpreted all of this according to his own assumption, and he comes up with now new facts that the rest of us have clearly missed. This man surmised the rapture would occur 33 days after last month's solar eclipse. The way he explained it, he said Jesus lived for 33 years. He also said the name Elohim, which is the name that God gave to the Jews, that the name Elohim is mentioned in the Bible 33 times. And that all of this is very significant, biblically significant, in a numerological way. He says, I'm talking astronomy, I'm talking Bible, and I'm merging these two things together. And the calculation came out to yesterday. I would like to call Mr. Meade on the phone and see just what he's doing today, wouldn't you? Well, according to Mr. Meade, a secret planet called Nibiru, Nibiru, has come into the system to incite global catastrophes by passing the Earth very close. And he did that, or this planet did that last Sunday, a week ago. But here's the shock. His claims have been widely rebuffed by scientists and theologians alike. I mean, usually we embrace all of these things, but this is one that pretty much everybody has set aside and said, you've lost your mind. In part because the NASA people and other people that look out over the sky haven't seen this planet. They don't know what he's talking about. They flatly refuse or state that this thing did not happen. Even our friend Ed Stetzer over at Christianity Today said it's a made-up leader in a made-up field and should not be on the front page of anything, let alone on Fox News. Ed Stetzer, Christianity Today, Southern Baptist, he thinks it's a made-up leader in a made-up field. Would that he could turn those same glasses, those same eyes, examine his own evangelical community. He'll find the same kind of thing here. This is the state of the popular version of church at the end of the age. True believers, not convinced, never have been. But given the sad state of Bible teaching in churches today, there are a tremendous amount of people who get confused over this stuff. Here's a little encouragement for you. The mainstream media seems to be losing the battle. The Media Research Center examined coverage of the president over the summer and found that 91% of the coverage was negative. Who knew? This was also reported by the Washington Post. In their nightly newscasts over the summer, the media research found that the big three networks covered the Russian investigation with 415 minutes of broadcasting. 94% of this was negative. The effort to repeal and to replace Obamacare produced 176 minutes. 97% of it was negative. The North Korean nuclear saber rattling resulted in 136 minutes. 86% of that coverage was negative. And Trump's reaction to the violence in Charlottesville saw 97 minutes, with 97% of that being negative. But a new morning poll, called a consult poll, I don't know what that means, commissioned by Politico, shows that the president's approval rating has now ticked up to 43%. And it says the reason appears to be how well he is responding to the recent hurricanes, even though the coverage has been negative. Now, none of this is really significant, except to those that live and die according to the polls and those who have vested interest in which way they all bounce. But it is interesting to watch the liberal left go nuts with this president. Our UN ambassador, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, is reporting that the vast majority of nations around the world are viewing President Trump's recent speech at the UN to be positive. They're encouraged. The media? According to them, it was a profound disgrace. He was fear-mongering, war-mongering. Now here's the rule of thumb with political opinion. You watch, you listen to the media, and then you respond away from whatever they're talking about. Whatever their opinion is, go the other way, you're probably going to be safer. We heard a report this week that there's a rise of hepatitis A. According to the Los Angeles County Health Department, a person can get hepatitis A if they come in contact with an infected person's feces through contaminated food or objects. Other modes of transmission include certain sexual practices, sharing equipment related to illicit drug use, and consumption of food or water contaminated with the virus. And now hepatitis A is an epidemic in Los Angeles. Can anybody out there imagine why? Did you see anything in there that you had to worry about? Well, I've got to change my behavior because I could get hepatitis A. Does anybody doubt that this sort of thing, this rise in this epidemic, is deliberate? Not necessarily a group of people who set out to destroy another group of people, but a higher power working to nullify everything God stands for. and to destroy human beings by whatever means. Our God has prescribed a lifestyle and a diet which guarantees the most healthy and productive life possible for human beings, given the limitations of all things physical. There was a book published 50 years ago called None of These Diseases. It was largely ignored by the mainstream media, largely panned by the experts. But it goes back and looks at the dietary laws and behaviors specified under the Mosaic Code. And if you do these things, God says, none of the diseases the Egyptians suffered will ever be your lot. And we've rejected that. Why? Well, quite simply because we've rejected God. And we've done that with everything in our life. The world hates God. God, the only good there is in the world, they hate him. Why? He's a killjoy. He won't let me have anal sex. He tells me it's wrong. Hey, you want hepatitis A? You want some of these other killer diseases? Go off and do whatever you want. You're going to anyway.